We're with eXp Realty, the Aaron Smith team. And we're glad you're here. Sometimes aging, caregiving, and what's happening next can feel overwhelming. So today is about clarity and confidence and maybe a little laughter too. And we do have an expert panel today, and we are super excited that we are joined by three women who do this every day to help families navigate the next stage of life. Not from one angle, but from very different and very complementary perspectives. Welcome, ladies.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Happy to be
You're
here.
welcome. So, we hear this term caregivers, and like most people just don't even know what that's about. Could you tell us do the introductions and tell us who you are, what you do, and maybe one thing that families ask when they first reach out to you?
All right. Who wants to?
Go ahead and start, April.
Okay, I'll start. My name is April Ibarra. My company is Bold Not Old, and I'm a gerontologist. I've been doing healthcare and aging for about too long to say. And now I'm an aging woman, so I look at everything from both perspectives. And I've worked with these ladies in the community. We're a very tight group of care managers. Each of us approaches things with the same objective, but with our own unique perspectives and experiences. So I'll turn it over to Karen.
Hi, thanks for having me again. I'm Karen Silber with KTS Advocacy, and I'm a healthcare advocate. So I do care management, but I like to say that I'm providing advocacy with healthcare more specifically, which impacts all of us at some point in our lives. I am a social worker by trade. I have quite a bit of clinical experience, insurance experience. So when I do provide care management for individuals, I'm also looking at things in a different way because I have different skills in my wheelhouse related to insurance situations that may arise and medical bills. I help people with long-term care policies as well.
Mm.
And I think also, just for everyone's purposes, is I don't just work with seniors because there are many young people who have chronic conditions and situations as well who also need that support.
Point.
Tara, you're up.
Thanks for having me. My name is Tara Chapin. I am a social worker as well. I own a local business. It's called Memory Wise. And what I do is I meet with families, aging individuals and families for in-person consultations where I do an in-depth home safety assessment, get to know each family and their exact situation. I provide a whole lot of education by meeting them where they're at. So whether that be education about insurance coverage, about different types of care that one can receive in the community and how to access it, or even education about um, how to best manage some of their healthcare needs as they age, like tips for medication management, for example, tips for getting safe transportation when it's come the time where you can no longer drive. And then the last part of my assessments is help with writing a step-by-step plan where they can actually take action steps for moving forward with priorities and then what they can work on in the future. So I do in-person assessments with individuals and families. And then in addition to that, for those who would like more ongoing support, I also provide care management to them in the communities, just like April and Karen both do as well. So like I said, I'm a social worker. I have almost 20 years experience working in various areas of the healthcare field. I saw a need, and that's why I got started. I work with all kinds of individuals and families and even adults with disabilities, but I do have kind of a special interest in working with people who are navigating Alzheimer's disease or another dementia diagnosis. So that is a kind of a niche that I work in.
Gosh, you guys like work in all different aspects of care
You
management.
never know what the need is, right? And it's
No,
complicated. Yeah.
it does seem very complicated. So, like, how when do families know when they might need a care manager? I mean, are there signs that families can look for, and if so, like, how do they reach out to figure out which one of you guys they need?
If I can answer first, Anna.
Yeah.
So what's great about the three of us is that we all know each other and we all know each other's skill sets. And if we get a call and it's something we can manage ourselves, that's great. But I also know April is there and Tara is there. And sometimes families need both of us. It just kind of depends. For care coordination purposes, that's someone who can just help them coordinate all the needs that they have. So doctor's appointments, setting up specialty appointments, finding specialists, making arrangements of resources in the home, such as home care equipment, and anything else. I mean, the situations I see and April and Tara see are super complicated anymore. I mean, people are in the home needing, who have very high complexity situations going on. And I'm just thankful we're all here to help the numerous individuals in our community who need us.
It's a very collaborative approach. It's a small community of care managers. There's more than us, but quite frankly, there's not enough of us. So we're always trying to get more people who have a passion for this space, like all of us do, to get into it because there's such a need. And it doesn't have to, I mean, it goes from very complex to unsure, right? And I would say families should start out sooner rather than later. Because if you're just not sure, something's going on, maybe it's repeat hospitalizations, it could be the death of a spouse, right? Somebody who's been married for 50
Mm-hmm.
years, all of a sudden the other spouse is on their own and they're already struggling with maybe some chronic illnesses, maybe some dementia. Start out early and just dip your toe in the water. Call one of us, call someone, and start just expressing what your concerns are. And then we can start putting the pieces together. It takes a while. I mean, I find when I start with a client, especially if I'm doing kind of a comprehensive, I'm taking them to the doctors, I'm coordinating details, it takes a bit of time because it's very personal. Right? So we have to get to know these people. They have to get to know us. We have to build trust. So if you wait till mom's at the hospital after her sixth fall, and then she needs to move from her home and get into a more supportive community, you're way behind. It's not
Mm-hmm.
impossible, but it's going to be more of a difficult journey.
You know,
Anytime you have a question, you can always just hop on a phone for a consultation and say, I'm not sure if I need you now, but let's build the relationship.
that goes along with what Anna and I do in the real estate side is that, throughout the course of somebody's life, they may move 7, 8, 10 times and they get used to it, right? They start to recognize different pieces of the process. And but a lot of times people will wait until the last minute to do something.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know about you guys, but I only have one set of parents. I'm only going to do that one time. And I'm certainly not going to know everything I need to know before I get there, especially when it comes to the legal side. Karen, the insurance side, you were talking about, all the insurance ins and outs. So, like, and I'm sure you guys have recommendations that you make to people on the insurance side and the legal side. What are some things that you wish that I knew about helping my parents while they age?
That's a really good question. There's so many things. There's so many things that I think people should know in advance. I think maybe one of the first things would be the importance of executing advance directives timely.
Yes.
I mean, that's one of many, but that might be the first one that comes to mind. And when I use the term advance directives, what I'm talking about are legal forms called a healthcare power of attorney, a financial power of attorney, and a living will. And it's ultimately naming someone to speak on your behalf in for healthcare decisions or financial decisions when you're no longer able to speak for yourself in that regard. So that would involve having uncomfortable conversations earlier rather than later about what our parents really value and what they want their end of life care to look like and how they want their finances to be managed. I mean, ultimately, nobody likes to have uncomfortable conversations about them declining in the future and losing that kind of autonomy. But I've found that what you may assume your parents want is not necessarily what they actually want or what they want it to look like. So getting that kind of direction and getting those things in place earlier, I think would be a really important place to start.
And those conversations are difficult, but they're inevitable. And if you don't have them when you can, somebody that you don't want is going to make those decisions for you. So we can all tell you the horror stories. And I think that's where we can all support too, is starting the conversation. So somebody might just reach out to us. They don't really need anything now, but they're like, how do I even begin to broach this conversation?
Yes, I feel like you wouldn't even believe how many people hire me for a consult, really because of course they want the help with assessment and planning and resources, but ultimately what they really want help with is facilitation of a hard conversation.
And to add to that, what I'm seeing a lot, and I have several clients who have reached out to me specifically to help with long-term care claims. So they have long-term care policies that they've paid into for years and years and years. And from those experiences that I've had with these clients is that some of them don't even know where the policy is. So you're talking about aging and planning ahead. It's so important to know where that exists. The family members should know where it exists or know who to reach out to, who can send them the policy, whatever company they got it from. And besides that is reviewing it. What does it cover? So, not waiting till you're hospitalized or in a skilled nursing facility or in a rehab facility and realizing you're going to need assistance at home, you're going to need longer term nursing home care, assisted living, and those can be benefits under that long-term care policy, and people have no idea what's involved in that, what's involved with getting a claim pushed through. I have to say it's very difficult and time consuming.
And that's where the expertise does come in. And when we talk about the differences in different care managers, that is definitely not my sweet spot. And I will be like, let me call Karen, let me call Tara, because it does take some expertise to be able to navigate those things. So there's a community for everything.
Well, I think that's very important because my understanding is when the long-term care policies first came out, like a lot of people my age, I'm a retiree, like jumped on them. And so now, like you said, Karen, there's a lot of navigation that goes into it. So that's a good thing to know that at least there's somebody out there who can help you, go through all of that.
Yeah, that's accessing. You may have the plan, but accessing it and jumping through the hoops to access it is sometimes can be overwhelming for individuals or families.
And who wants to do that if you are in the midst of some situation, you're hospitalized in a nursing home, assisted living, you're not even thinking clearly, you're focusing on rehab, trying to get through the day. And that is just not something that you can even think about doing, and it's completely overwhelming.
A lot of our conversations that all five of us have, they start when there's an event, right?
Mm-hmm.
Loss of a loved one, stroke, heart attack, something happens, a slip and fall and slip, however you want to put it there. Um, but then we go into scramble mode. We start trying to find a place, and we start trying to find help and find people. I know personally, I have a file that has all my information in there. Where's my will? Where's my healthcare directive? Where are all my things? If someone like myself were to start a file for my mom or for my dad as they age, what are some key things that we would want to make sure that are in that file? I think our viewers would love to hear, like, how can I start prepping something here so that I can help my parents out?
Yeah.
I
I'll
actually
start.
have a checklist.
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I think we have
No.
a little bit of drag. I have a
Yeah.
checklist that I give families, even if they don't really need a consultation right now, so they can get started with just that, what you're talking about, Erin. But if I love the idea that you have a file, and everybody should. But I think in that file should be things, especially things like advance directives, like we discussed, a last will and testament, trust information if you've been working with an attorney, an inventory of any financial accounts or investments, and how to reach contacts in relation to those accounts or investments. Um, I think like utility bill and account number information.
Big things that.
What am I not thinking of, Karen and April?
Well, one, I think it's important to also talk about the older adult, because so many times, and this is where me, with my background as gerontology, I look at everything from the perspective of the individual, right? So we get so caught up in all the things that are important, the checklist, the documents, the placement, how it's going to be paid for, but what do they want? What are their
Mm-hmm.
values and preferences? What are their needs, wants? Everything from, I would never want to live there, not necessarily don't ever put me in a nursing home, but what is important to them? And that's called person-centered care, right? And it's a very rare thing in healthcare. And we talk about complexity here. And it is complicated. It shouldn't be, but our healthcare system is not set up very well for older adults. Probably not younger ones either, Karen would agree. It's just very fragmented, right? So complex doesn't have to be so overwhelming, and that's why we're here. We can break it down into some simple things, but I do think it's important to understand who are your parents, or your spouse, or whoever it is you're looking for. What is important to them? So beyond just the basic forms and processes, we got to understand too that they are individuals, and they will be very reluctant to accept help if we are not willing to understand and take it from, I'm here to support your independence, not to take it away.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know April and Tara, you all may deal very, very closely, more than I do, with clients who have dementia. So I'm thinking about your comment, and when you're having to speak with someone who has some cognitive situations, it's very, and decisions have not been made, and maybe there's no family.
Right.
It's very hard to, especially when they don't think there's anything wrong,
Right.
that maybe it's time to start making plans, because here's some things that you're saying, and you're making some recommendations and suggestions. And I do have a client that I'm working with like that, and I know I can see maybe down the road needing one of you to pop in and helping with additional conversations, because I can see where things are going, and I don't know if you can speak to that. That must be hard, I would think.
And one conversation isn't enough. That's the problem, right? We think that, okay, now we've got to do something. Let's jump in. Let's get this done. Because quite frankly, families, everyone's busy, right? And it is overwhelming. People are taking care of their children, they're working. So just,
Sandwich generation.
yeah,
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
recognize this is not going to happen in 1 week, right? We've got to start the conversation probably 6 months before, at least, to start understanding somebody. And when I start working with a client, and I get the pieces of information maybe from a community that they're living in, maybe from the family, and then I start working with that person. I said nobody's really looking at who this person is. And I've had some pretty good success stories by trying to focus on helping them have autonomy and purpose and as much independence as they can with their circumstances so that they're safe. But we can't, you can't bubble wrap people either and say, you can't go out, you're going to fall, you can't do this, you're at risk, because
Right.
that sort of takes away them as a person. And that's just no way for anyone to live. So it takes time.
Yeah. Person-centered care is so important, like April said, and just as much so, and with someone who has dementia or any kind of a cognitive impairment. But those conversations are usually just had very delicately and not like also like April said, it's not a one-time conversation. With care management in general, it's not just about checking off all the boxes. Although I find that caregivers do love checklists
They
that they
need
could
them.
check off, so they feel like that they're not missing something important and doing the right things. But it's not just about checking boxes. It's really more about um, relationship and about trust, building trust with each other. And one thing that I say with every family that I'm working with is, and individuals who feel like they're, you know, losing their independence in some way, that I don't want to be here to do anything to you. We are a team. We're working together toward what you want for yourself, and sometimes that means weighing risks and benefits. Like April said, you can't just bubble wrap someone. That really can decrease their quality of life. So taking calculated risks so they can maintain that independence.
And I
Sounds
think
like
that
you
goes
all
back
take the
to,
time. Oh, sorry.
no, I was going to say that goes back to the differences too, because I've had calls before and they're looking for a care manager who is a nurse, which I'm not. I don't think, Karen, are you a nurse? No.
No.
So, because they have a family member who has a very complicated situation. And yes, so sometimes you need that nursing component there. But then, so you have to kind of know where are you in the journey, and we can help that. So I got on a call with this family and I was like, I'm not the person. Let me help you find, and we will all do that. So
Yep.
whoever you call, we're gonna weave and bob and work with you until we help you find the help that you need.
You guys are like so focused and you take good care of your clients. I mean, I'm impressed. So
It's a
I'm
passion.
it is a passion, and you just want to take such good care of people. I mean, when the family calls, I mean, like, what kind of questions do they ask so that they know like which person? Because you guys, like you said, you work together, but you do separate things, and like, how do they know which? What are the questions, I guess,
Yeah.
that people
Go
ask?
ahead, Karen. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think they know. And, from my perspective, most people say I didn't even know a healthcare advocate existed.
Mm.
And so I just let them talk and hear where they are, what their goals are. And if I don't feel like it's the right fit for me, then that we talk through that. Um, and then I know who to refer to. And like April said, there's others in the community, and then we all just have different skills. So I think the most important thing is just trying to get this message out that if you are frustrated, if you are beating your head up against a wall, and you're going as a caregiver, you're going to work, and this is all you can think about is all these things at home. I'm sure that's happened to all of us at least once. And it's very hard to focus on things at work. You have a family, and you just have this sense that you need help, and you don't want to do all this alone. Just letting people know that we are here, and pick up the phone and just schedule a consultation with one of us, and let us hear how we can help you try to go on this journey. And most people say to me at the end of our half hour consultation is, I feel better already. You've
Sometimes,
already given me some peace of
yeah,
mind.
they need reassurance. Sometimes they need a life raft kind of, so to speak. I've got one client I work with. I've never met her mother. All I do is she's capable, she's here, she's ready. She just doesn't know where to go, right? Because unfortunately, her mother has some mental health issues, and that's another one that's very challenging. And you can get a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or dementia just at a hospital stay, and it could be in your record. Somebody says, "I didn't know Dad had dementia," and it's like, so you can't just assume anything. So there's no one way to get the kind of help that we offer. Just be willing to pick up the phone and start a conversation.
I've got an observation. I want to make it, and I'm really big with analogies because I feel like it helps people understand things. So the way that I see a care manager fitting into somebody's life is like this. You're about to go onto a journey and you have no idea how long this journey will be, but you know there's going to be ups and downs, there's going to be good and bad, there's going to be all sorts of things. But there's a tour guide on your journey that has seen all of the different obstacles. They know how to prepare for a journey like this, and they know what to look out for. And if I had a tour guide who had been down the road before, and I've not been down the road, and I could just call that tour guide up, that care manager, and say, "Hey, what do I need to be doing right now? How do I handle this?" They can help me where I'm not trying to figure it all out alone. Am I reading that right about what you guys
I
do?
feel like that's such a perfect way to say it. Yes, I would say a guide, an advocate, and even one step further than that, someone who actually coordinates all those things on your behalf or is willing to kind of take it off your plate. So just doing as much or as little as you want them to. But that's a great way to put it.
So you'll coordinate it too. So like all along my journey, you'll set up the hotel stays and all the other stuff for me while I'm out there.
You got it.
You've been known
You
to
got
do
it.
that.
Yeah.
That would be very comforting to know that you've got somebody who's been there before.
Right. And then we have to also say some families are long distance, right? So I have a lot of clients whose families are dispersed or they are disconnected. They don't have a relationship with their family. Solo agers, either whether they're intentionally or they never had children or they don't have family around. So sometimes we have to help that person who has nobody else to help. So it's not always the family that calls us up.
I would say, Aaron, your analogy, I really did like that. And I would say that we've been on these tours a whole lot more than probably you have. And so we can get things done a little quicker. We know what to look out for. We know which hotels to choose. Um, so just taking that off your plate has to be comforting to you, to know that you can just enjoy the experience and let us take the burden away.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like in a lot of industries where people don't understand how things fit together, one of the biggest concerns is, how much is this going to cost me? How can I pay for
Mhm.
this? And what resources are available for me that I can afford or that my insurance can pay for? How do you guys handle that?
I think
Yeah,
most
I'd say
families,
that's actually one of the most common questions that people ask right after, what should I be doing? Um, how much is this going to cost, and how am I going to pay
Medicare
for
cover
it?
it. That's, I mean,
Does
Yeah,
Medicare cover this?
most
Right,
people
right.
don't
And
understand
so,
the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. Um,
exactly.
Right.
So
There's a
Yeah.
lot of insurance education.
Hmm.
Um, so, and then even things like VA benefits that people may or may not be eligible for, and what that looks like for them. So, yeah, it involves a whole lot of education about what things cost and what kind of financial support is available for each of those options, whether it's care in the home or whether it's a senior living community, and who accepts Medicaid and who doesn't, and do I even qualify for that? Yeah, it goes so much further than just how much does everything cost, because it's complicated and it depends on what resources you have.
but there is a cost to care. And I think that's one thing that people do need to understand. Um, when they need help, when they need support, whether it's from a care manager like us, or it's an assisted living, or it's in-home health, there is going to be a cost. Medicare will pay for short-term care, not when it becomes a long-term care situation. So just understanding that I think is important for families to know.
Well, I
And I
think
probably see just different situations too because of the other individuals that I work with who are not Medicaid or Medicare eligible, who are younger and have private insurance,
True.
and we just don't have enough time in the day to talk through so many different situations. But prior authorizations that get denied, claims that are denied, things that are not processed as they should be, you know, these things are happening to, people in their 60s who just aren't Medicare age yet, who are also a part of all this that we're talking about today, who may need a care manager, and trying to navigate all of that. The EOB's explanation of benefits that come in the mail, what does all that mean? And how is this going to hit me? Loss of a spouse and being stuck with medical bills that you just have no understanding of. Um, it's just our healthcare is just it can be so challenging, and you just think about these people who are are in it every day, trying to use it every day, and it's just, thank God we're just all here to explain and process these things for them.
I think that's where the experience comes in. Like we said before, we've seen this time and time. So we can see, I think, and say, here's what I've seen with clients like this before, right? So we can kind of peek into the future a little bit to help them understand what to expect and prepare sometimes for the most difficult situations when somebody is starting to decline and it's probably not going to turn around. And we really got to start talking about, here's where I see this going. And if this doesn't happen, we may need to be prepared for this.
here's a here's a thought and a question. When you say here's where I see this going, I've got things in my head that worry me that probably shouldn't, and I've got things that don't worry me that probably should. But I hear that the aging population, people turning 65 every day. There's like what 10 to 15,000 people every day turning 65 years old. And I think about their needs and where they may fall short. I feel like there's not enough places for people to go that and they wait too long to decide where to go, right? What trends are you guys seeing in your industry right now to help that problem?
Not enough. Not enough. And I think that's where I start talking about wellness, because my background is gerontology and wellness. There's longevity science that proves that aging does not have to end up the way that we don't have to end up the way that it looks like maybe for our grandparents or our parents, because many of these things are prevented by our choices, our lifestyle, our attitudes, how we live our life. And so that's kind of my sweet spot, is trying to get people think in their 50s and 60s, how do I want to age? Because the reason we need help is we can no longer take care of our basic activities of daily living. It's not super complicated, right? Or my memory or my dementia is creating issues and I can no longer pay my bills or organize the things that I used to do. So it's the very simple breakdown of these normal things that we always did, taking care of ourselves. It doesn't have to be that way. That's my perspective. Karen, Tara, I'd love to hear from you.
Um, and while you were talking, April, I was thinking, what you do is kind of on the front end, trying to in the beginning where to get them to start thinking about their future. And I would say the majority of the time, the clients that I'm working with are already in it.
Yeah.
And there's problems and there's issues.
Right.
And so um, I don't know that I necessarily call this a trend, maybe. But what I am seeing more of is people going into skilled nursing facilities for care, for therapy, and that is short term. You if you're Medicare, you have a very small period of time to get yourself to where you can go back home. And there are people who just can't do that in that period of time, or they're just not progressing, and you have to progress in order for Medicare or private insurance to pay for you to remain there. And then it turns into paying privately. And I don't know if you all are aware how expensive it is for one day in a nursing home. And when you add that up by 30 days, it's over $10,000 and sometimes almost 15. So a trend that I am seeing is assisted living facilities going up on, almost every corner, kind of like a Walgreens. And they are upping their care, the type of care that they provide. And even though $8,000-9,000 sounds expensive for the month, guess what? That's cheaper than a nursing home. And they can still provide the same care. So I have a couple clients right now, and that's what we're doing. We're moving them out of a nursing home and trying to save them several $1,000s per month and going into an assisted living where they can get the same care but cheaper.
Probably a higher quality, I would add.
Yes.
Possibly because it's more person-centered. And when we talk about person-centered, it means it's not like meals are at 9, it's time for your bath, this is how we do it, which, you're in an institution, that's kind of how it goes, right? Person-centered means I don't have my breakfast till 10, why should I have to eat at 8 with everybody else, right? Simple thing, but it's about people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a good answer. I would say I agree with you that I do see a lot of senior living communities, specifically assisted livings, popping up more and more because the population is aging and nursing homes are expensive and assisted livings are incentivized to provide a higher level of care than they ever were in the past. I would say they might be able to provide a higher quality level of care. Sometimes they typically don't have quite as much staff as a nursing home. Not to say that nursing homes are well staffed, but the reason why assisted living might be able to provide that is because most assisted livings don't accept Medicaid for payment, which is a lower reimbursement. So if they have a building full of people who are paying privately and they're being reimbursed their full rate, then they might be able to provide a higher level of care. And I think there's a big push and competition among assisted living communities on who will allow their residents to age in place and hopefully never get to a point where you're like, well, you need too much care now, so you got to go to the nursing home. We're trying to do a better job as a whole of avoiding those kind of things.
I think one important thing to add to that, because we're all tri-state, right? We're Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana. Every state is different. Over here in Kentucky, what they can do in an assisted living is considerably different from what they will do in Ohio. And you don't know that unless you're in the middle of it. So just keep that in mind when you think, well, wait a minute, why does this look so different? State regulations.
Mm.
Do you have to be a resident of that state?
No,
No.
not to move into a senior living community, but
Not if you're
if you
paying out
need to apply
privately.
for Medicaid, then you
Yeah.
do.
Right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. See? Even us, I mean, I think we all learn something new every day. So,
We do. So
families,
true,
don't feel
April.
bad. This is quite normal. And trust me, we love to talk about it. So, no question, it's off the table.
Anna, what other questions do you have, or girls, what hot topics do you want to bring up that you think people need to know more about?
Go for it. What's your
Oh, yeah. Well, mine is planning ahead, looking ahead, and also realizing that aging does not have to be doom and gloom, right? Because that's really what we see in the media, and that's what we talk about. You can no longer take care of yourself. Well, why? Well, I can't get to the bathroom by myself. Why? What takes you to the bathroom? Your legs. Okay. Can we do therapy? Can we, I used to teach exercise classes in a nursing home when I was 19 years old. And, my favorite thing when I would do exercise with seniors is say, how many of you want help getting on and off the toilet? They'd look at me like, who is this whippersnapper? And I said, you don't need help because you're old. You need help because you don't have the muscular strength to do the things you used to do. So we can't just assume. And I think one thing that I'll say, and then I'll zip it, but is that families sometimes can get over worried. So what they're worried about may not be what their loved one is worried about. So that's where the conversation comes, right? And you have to pick and choose your battles. You can't put them in bubble wrap and protect them for the rest of their lives. But you do have to have a conversation and worry. Just because mom doesn't shower every day, because showering is always a big thing with seniors, doesn't mean it's the end of the world. Can you make a compromise to say, okay, she's going to shower 4 times a week, right? So we can't try to control everything. Prioritize and pick and choose your battles.
April, when you talk about planning ahead, I think, okay, well, how early is too early and how late's too late? Like, what signs am I looking for that says, hey, you better start planning? Is that when mom or dad stops going out to see their friends and like they become more reclusive? Is that when, I don't know, they just get having trouble remembering
Yeah, you ladies
birthdays?
have probably seen it all too. I mean, it's any time. I mean, to me, anytime after 50 is when we all need to say, inevitably, I'm not going to get younger. How am I living? What am I doing? I know that at some point I'm going to be 80. It's not a surprise if I'm lucky. So you need to start sort of examining your home, right? I'm living in this house. I know it can't be my forever home anymore. Even if I'm 60, which I am, and I live in a home, I know, okay, I'm going to stay here probably for maybe 10 more years. But I'm already looking towards this is not going to be where I stay for many reasons. So I think everyone 50 plus needs to start looking at their own life and saying, how do I live? What does the future bring? Because it's not a surprise. We're all getting older. And it's a darn good thing. It beats the alternative.
Yeah, I
True.
mean, I'd say the earlier the better, Even if you're in your 50s or 60s and you're not ready to, sit down and talk about your assisted living options, not ready for that.
No,
Yeah,
you
but
may not need it.
you can always be doing something, and really just even just initiating uncomfortable conversations and asking yourself some challenging questions that you haven't wanted to think about before. That could be a good place to start. And doing a program like April's with the Bold Not Old, she does some really great things in the community, and attending something like that. And just I'd say earlier the better.
April, tell us more about that.
Oh, yes.
Bold
Karen,
and
please.
not old.
Yeah, please
Very
do.
fascinating.
No, Karen, you go ahead, please. We want to hear you.
Oh, I was just going to say my hot topic was just probably a little different because I deal with people who have excessive medical bills, and you can be somebody with Medicare and still have medical bills. Too many situations to go into right now with the time that we have, but I just want to say, just because you have a bill doesn't mean that you have to pay it right away. You need to understand why you have it. Ask for an itemized bill because it'll give you even a better understanding. Ask for a discount. You will likely get some kind of discount. I have a client who has a $65,000 bill from a nursing home, and I asked if we could please get a discount if they could make a lump sum payment. And they knocked off $15,000. So you
Well
just
worth
never
an
know.
ask.
So that's my hot topic.
That's a very
If you
hot.
don't ask, the answer is always no.
Right, right.
100%.
And older adults today will write a check as soon as they see a bill. That's
They
kind of
will.
how they're conditioned. So
Yes.
yeah.
So just think about it. Ask questions.
Well, this has been awesome. Like getting to know you guys and how you manage people's care and how you interact with people as people, not just a checkbox or a checklist. And it's, individualized care. And, I just love to hear that you guys are in our community helping. So
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
this
For
conversation
having
with
us.
us.
Now you have
Anna,
great
yeah. Anna, do you have anything special to close us out for this awesome interview?
No, again, with a great big thank yous. We appreciate your time to educate us on all this stuff. It's just, for me, every time we do these interviews, I just learn more and more about the senior sector. I care for my 92-year-old mother, and so these kinds of things are very beneficial for me, not only for her, but also for myself being a senior citizen. So again, your wisdom is just beyond what I expected.
Thank you so much for
Thank you
hosting
so
us.
much. This
Well,
has been very enjoyable.
I'll close this out by saying if anybody's watching this and has more questions, go to 55moves.com. Check out our YouTube channel where you're going to find contact information for Tara, Karen, and April and what they do and how to find them. 3 great ladies who are helping our seniors right here in the Cincinnati tri-state area. Thanks for watching.